This week has been a really exciting week for gaming, as we've gotten several new trailers across all the different platforms. We've gotten a Nintendo Switch Direct, a PlayStation 5 Direct, an Xbox Direct, and of course, the Summer Games Fest for PC gamers like myself. So today, I'm going to stop and rank all 43 new game trailers from Summer Games Fest based on how excited I am for that particular game. So grab your controller and let's dive into my ranking. I want to start by establishing a little bit of what qualifies for this list. I will not be ranking new updates or DLCs that are dropping to an existing game from a trailer at Games Fest. So you won't see Power World 1.0, although I am really excited for that update. And you also won't see any DLCs like Monster Hunter Wilds DLC. Also, there were a bunch of indie games announced in the dev segment at the end of the Games Fest, which I will not be including because this video will already probably be too long. However, if this video does well, I can rank all of the indie games announced at Summer Games Fest if that's what people want to see. So let's get on to the first tier. We'll use a tiered system to rank the games. These games coming up are games that I definitely will not play based on the trailers that I've seen so far and what I know about the game. At number 43, I have Attack on Titan 3. Now this follows the final seasons of the show, and I'm a huge Attack on Titan fan. I love the show, but it simply does not appeal to me in game format, and it's a Japanese style game, and those are usually different from Western gaming, and I usually am more inclined to play Western games, though there are a few Japanese style games that you'll see later on this list that I actually am excited for. But personally, I'm not excited for Attack on Titan 3 because I haven't played Attack on Titan 1 or Attack on Titan 2, and even though I really love the show, it's just not a type of game that appeals to me. At number 42, I have Hot Wheels Infinite Rush, and I won't play this game simply because it's catered towards kids. I used to love Hot Wheels as a kid, but it's still not enough to get me to play this game. This game looks great if you are in between the ages of 5 to 10 as a toddler or a young child, and it's a good intro point for racing for young kids. But personally, it's just not my style. I'm not going to play a Hot Wheels game because I outgrew my Hot Wheels phase a long time ago. I'm also not a huge fan of racing games. You'll see more racing games on this list, and you'll see that they continue to rank low with one exception. At number 41, I have Saw Genesis, and to enjoy this game you need two things: friends and a tolerance for horror games. I have neither. So, I personally won't be playing this game. Of course, the game is a 3v1 co-op type deal where three of you are trying to escape the one person who is Saw, which I think is kind of a neat concept, but it's just not for me. I've never been a fan of the Saw movies either. I haven't really seen any of them except for the original, and they're not like my favorite thing to watch. So this game also doesn't really appeal to me. Coming in at number 40, I have Chronicles Medieval. Now this game is a battle simulator similar to like Tabs or Mount and Blade Warband, and it's really just like you're controlling massive amounts of armies. For me, this is not a type of game that I enjoy. It looks kind of intriguing, which is why it's up a little higher than the previous three, where if I were to play this game, like I might get a tiny bit of fun out of it, where if I got it for free or played it on a friend's computer, but I just don't really like these types of games where they're battle simulators. I never really got into Totally Accurate Battle Simulator or Mount and Blade or any of those other type of games. So for me, Chronicles Medieval comes in at number 40. At number 39, I have Clutch, which is the second racing game on my list. As I said with Hot Wheels, I'm not really a fan of racing games. This game is a little more mature than Hot Wheels, and it focuses more on story, which is something that I can appreciate. But again, a racing game is still a racing game, and it's not really something that I enjoy, just driving cars around endlessly. So for me, the racing genre is just not something that I enjoy, and with that, Clutch is going to come in at 39 on this list. At number 38, I have Stellar Blade BloodRayne. Now, I never played the first Stellar Blade game, so this sequel isn't really that appealing to me. This game is just a protagonist beating up zombie-like creatures that look like they come out of Stranger Things, and I'm not really a fan of zombie or body horror or like any of this stuff that is highly prominent in this game, and for me it just didn't really seem that appealing to be punching these zombie-like creatures as a character that is clearly designed to appeal to teenage boys. So it just wasn't something that I was interested in, so it comes in at 38. At 37, I have the Gothic remaster. Now, I never played the original Gothic, so there's no nostalgia for this remaster. You'll see later on this list, I have remakes and remasters that I actually am looking forward to play because I have the nostalgia for the first game, and I really enjoyed it. But on Gothic's case, I never played the original Gothic, so I don't really have any reason to play this remaster. Now, just on gameplay alone, the trailer actually looks pretty solid, so I would think that I would enjoy this game, but it's a time concern, right? There are so many games on this list that I would rather play over this Gothic remaster that I just simply wouldn't have enough time to play. So for that reason, I'm not really interested in playing this game, and it comes in at 37. In this tier are games that I probably won't play, but something in the trailer caught my eye, so maybe I could be convinced to play them if they get really good reviews, or there's a friend tells me that, hey, you really should play this game. Coming in at 36 is The Wolf Among Us 2 and The Wolf Among Us Remaster. I kind of grouped these together because I never played the original Wolf Among Us, so it's not something that I'm interested in, and both of these games kind of have the same style. They're Telltale games, so it's like a choose-your-own-adventure text box style game, which can be fun if the story's really good. I've had good times with Telltale games like Minecraft Story Mode, for example, but the story has to be really, really good. So for me, I'm not going to default to playing a game that doesn't actually have any gameplay besides you just choosing two options, or choosing between three options sometimes. And Telltale has a good reputation as a studio. I'm sure this game could turn out good. That's why it's in the probably won't play. If it gets really good reviews, I might check it out, but it comes in at number 36. At number 35, I have Stranger Than Heaven, and this is a Japanese street roamer beat-em-up type game featuring Snoop Dogg and Tupac. And I don't listen to rap, so I don't have any attachment to either Snoop Dogg or Tupac. I think it's kind of fun that they were included, but this game just isn't my genre. It looks like it could be a hidden gem. It could have a really good story, who knows, but it's just not something that I'm naturally drawn to play a game like this. And because it's a AAA title, it's going to be listed at $70 or $75, and to me, it's just not worth spending that much money to play a game that is just, I pretty much would only be playing for Tupac or Snoop Dogg. And that is why this game comes in at number 35. Now, at number 34, I have something that may shock you guys. You guys are going to get pretty upset at me, I think, because this was a huge reveal for the Summer Games Fest, and that is Resident Evil Veronica. Now, I've never been a fan of the Resident Evil franchise. I haven't seen any of the movies other than clips. I tried to play with Resident Evil 4 in VR when I got my first VR headset because it came with the Meta Quest for free, or the Oculus Quest, what it used to be called. and I simply could not get into this franchise. I don't really like horror, as I've already discussed, and so the eeriness and the unsettling portion of this franchise just isn't for me. And I was just watching that trailer like, yeah, this is a Resident Evil game. Like, it embodies the vibes of Resident Evil, but it's not something that I would enjoy. I was like, oh yeah, like, this is probably going to be a little too scary for me to play, and I just wouldn't have fun. And then in general, like, the gameplay of Resident Evil, of like figuring out mysteries and shooting zombies with a pistol, like, it's just not stuff that I enjoy when I'm playing games. So for that reason, Resident Evil Veronica comes in at number 34. At number 33, I have RuneScape Dragon Wilds, and the trailer for this game looked fine, it looked fun, but for me, I just have never gotten into RuneScape. Like, it's always been too grindy, so maybe if they reduced some of the grind for this game, I might enjoy it more. It also seems to be a game that you play with your friends, and again, I'm lacking those currently, so I am not really interested in playing a multiplayer game that is more than 2 people. And RuneScape itself, like, it seems interesting that I would get into it. The survival aspects look fun, the building aspects look fun, but it's just something that I don't have an attachment to the IP like others do who played RuneScape in the early 2000s. I was not one of them, so for that reason, RuneScape Dragon Wilds comes in at number 33. At number 32 is End of Abyss. Now, this is another horror game, so you shouldn't be surprised that it's this low. But what intrigues me about this horror game and what places it above Resident Evil and Saw is that the graphic style actually is pretty unique. The graphics in this game looked really fun, and because it's kind of cartoonish, I might actually be able to stomach some of it, that it's not this super realistic horror and unsettling graphic. It's this cartoony, fun horror game that almost reminds you of an indie game, but it's being made by a AAA studio. So it does look kind of interesting and intrigues me, but the fact that it is a horror game holds it back a little bit for me, and that's why it comes in at number 32 on this list. At number 31 on this list is another surprise, another shocker to some of you, but it is Final Fantasy VII Revelation. And the reason this game is so low on this list is because although it looks fun, I would have to play 2 other Final Fantasy VII titles, the first remake and the sequel, before I get to play the third in the trilogy. So I really wouldn't get to play this game until probably like 5 or 6 years down the line. And while it does interest me, it's not something that I have the time to just set aside, oh, I'm gonna play 2 older Final Fantasy games that are remakes, and then just to play this third one 5 years after its release, where I have other games coming at me that I want to play and spend my time on. So although I think it's very interesting, I never got into the Final Fantasy franchise, so I'm not as excited for this game as other people. So it's the last game in the probably won't play category, and it comes in at number 31 on this list. This next category is the I don't know category, where I really have no idea if I'm going to play these games, whether it's because there's not enough information or I just don't know if I'm going to be able to fit them into my gaming schedule per se. But I am interested in these games, but not as interested as the games in the following category. So this is kind of the borderline between yes, I'm interested, and no, I probably won't play. Coming in at number 30, I've got Control Resonant, and this game did not show much at Summer Games Fest. It was kind of just a blip of a trailer. I looked it up, and most of the gameplay for this game, or it was a story trailer, so there was no gameplay, but the other trailer for this game was shown at the PlayStation 5 Fest that also happened this past weekend. And it looks fine. There's nothing special that sticks out to me about this game. It's probably going to be another, like, third-person action RPG that is kind of okay, so I'm not super excited for it. But the idea of this guy having like special powers and breaking out of prison could be something interesting. The story could be good, so maybe that's something that I would look forward to in this game. But I don't really have a whole lot of information on Control Resonant. I really have no idea what's going on, so that's why it lands in this IDK tier and at number 30 on my list. At number 29, I have Turok Origins, and I love the aesthetic of this game. I love dinosaurs and ancient technology being kind of utilized to fight off dinosaurs and aliens, kind of combining everything. That's great. That 14-year-old me would have been like, wow, dinosaurs, aliens, cultures, ancient cultures merging all together. Like, that is a great aesthetic for me. But the problem with this game is either a first or a third person. Looks like you can play in both looter shooter, and I'm not a huge fan of looter shooters or games that highly rely on ranged combat. For me, melee combat is so much more satisfying than ranged combat, and even spells are more satisfying than like guns and bows, and so I probably wouldn't enjoy the combat in this game. So that's why I really don't know if I'm going to play this game. Maybe if I have time, or if it gets glowing reviews, I might check it out. But it comes in at number 29 for me on this list. At number 28, I have 007 First Light, the last game in the I don't know category. And that's mostly because whenever a game comes out that is based off this big movie IP that I love, I really do want to try and play it, but it never seems to slot into my schedule of playing games. And this game has just come out, and I'm already occupied with Lego Batman, and it's also at the premium price of $75, which is a lot for a game like this. I also don't know how much I would enjoy like the spy and stealth mechanics. Things like Hitman are games that I didn't really enjoy playing, so this game has some elements from Hitman and other types of games like that that I might not enjoy playing through this game, so I decided to take a pass on it. But I'm sure this game will be good, so I ranked it at 28 on this list. This next category is games that I might play, but I don't know if I'm going to have time for. But in general, I respect these types of games, and I think that they will be enjoyable to a wide variety of people, but I might not have the time to get into them, or they might just not be for me. At number 27, I have Alien Isolation 2, because it's Alien Isolation. Like, this game, I never played it, but people love Alien Isolation. Like, they think it's a great horror game. And again, this is a horror game, so I'm not really a fan of horror games, but I gotta give it the respect that it deserves because it's Alien, and I love the Alien franchise. The Alien franchise is some of the few horror movies that I'll actually watch and enjoy. I've really liked Alien Romulus that came out last year, and of course I like the original Alien and Aliens. So Alien Isolation 2 would be a fun game, and I might check it out if I have time, just because of my love for the Alien franchise. But as far as a horror game, I'm not a fan of horror games, so this comes in lower on my list. But it is the best horror game that they announced at Games Fest, so it's the top of the horror games on this list, coming in at number 27. At number 26, I have Armadas, and this game is like a single-player Destiny type game, and I enjoyed the gameplay of Destiny and Destiny 2, but that was mostly because of the multiplayer aspects of the game, so it'd be interesting to see if I actually enjoyed the gunplay when it was kind of transferred over to a single-player game. And again, I don't really like ranged combat as much as melee combat, so that might dock from my enjoyment of this game. So I might play this game, but in general, I wasn't super won over by the trailers that have been released for this game, so it comes in at number 26. At number 25, I have Virtua Fighter Crossroads, And for me, this game looks like a hybrid between fighting game and an action RPG. And while I like action RPGs, I don't really like fighting games that much. Like, I'm not really a fan of Street Fighter or Mortal Kombat or really any of those games. Smash Bros is kind of one of the exceptions, but everyone likes Smash Bros because it's Nintendo, so it's easy to get your friends and family to play Smash Bros. So that's why I like Smash Bros, but other fighting games are just not for me. And this game might have a really good story, and if it does have a really good story, I might be encouraged to pick it up. But for me right now, I wasn't really won over by the trailer, so it comes in at number 25. At 24, remember when I said Alien Isolation was the best horror game announced at Games Fest this year? Well, I lied, because actually I think Last Harbor was a better game announced. It doesn't carry the hype that Alien Isolation does, but for me, I think I would enjoy this more because it has those survival aspects. The idea of like cooking and fishing on your boat and like upgrading your fishing rod, upgrading your boat to survive these waves of zombies that come out at night is interesting to me. And being able to fight zombies during the night and do survival crafting during the day is a pretty fun idea, I think, but it's not a game that I would tend to gravitate towards, again, because of the zombie aspects, where shooting zombies with guns and exploring wrecks during the night just doesn't appeal to me. So I probably would only enjoy half of the game, which is the survival crafting part. So that's why it comes down this low on this list at 24. At number 23, I have Aeon 2, and this is a game that is a gacha game from the East. I don't know if it's a Japanese studio that made it, but traditionally these types of games are Japanese, so it's a Japanese gacha game, which tend to be very predatory with their pay-to-win tactics. So that's why I might play this depending on whether or not the pay-to-win is really aggressive and egregious or not. The actual game looks okay. The flight mechanics that they really advertise, like this game lets your characters fly around and fight in the air, like that actually looks less appealing to me than the ground combat in this trailer. So I think that's also not a good sign that they were focusing on this flight mechanic, and I would have enjoyed the ground combat better. Also with gacha games, like, you never know when you're gonna get your best character, and so for me that's not super fun. Like, I like the gameplay loop, but it's just, oh, now I have to spend more money or in-game currency to get a better character, and that's always a bummer. So that's why this game comes in at 23, and I might play it, but it's leaning towards not. At 23, I have Adventures of Elliot, and this is Square Enix's new game. And Square Enix is a studio that has a very distinct style when developing games, and I generally like their games, but I always find myself never having time to finish them or dropping them in the middle. Like Octopath Travelers 2, I think was pretty fun for what I played, but I ended up just dropping it out of nowhere, and I never ended up finishing it. So I don't really know what I think of a full Square Enix gameplay experience, but I generally like the art style. The 2D art is always neat, and these collect your party members as you go. Like, it's definitely not my favorite style of game, but it's better than collecting your party members by paying money to open a crystal where you might get a character that is good, or you might get this trash can as a character. The gacha style is definitely way worse than what Square Enix usually does, where they have you organically recruit characters through the story. And for me, that's really fun, and Adventures of Elliot looks no different. It looks fun. It's traditional Square Enix style, so I might play it, but again, I might not have time, so it comes in at 22 on this list. At number 21, I have Swords of Legends, and this is the first Souls-like on this list, but you'll see a couple other Souls-likes come up. I really like the Souls-like genre, so I'm sure I would have a fun time with this game. My problem with this game is the combat actually looks pretty slow and easy compared to other Souls-likes, so if I'm playing a Souls-like, I really want to get brutalized. and this game just did not look like it would provide that. Granted, they only showed one boss fight, so maybe that's like the first boss and it's an easy boss, and there are other bosses that are harder. But this one looked like he was holding back on his attacks. The other thing about this boss that I noticed is he like yells out all of his attacks anime style, like flame of 1,000 burning swords, and then a bunch of swords come down, and that just took me out of the game. Like, I don't really care for characters that are just saying their attacks as they use it. I think it's clown behavior and not really a great development of character or something that would be realistically said in combat. And again, I placed it this low because I would probably have a fun time playing it because I love Souls-likes, but there are 2 other Souls-likes on this list, at least. One of which is going to blow my mind, I think. So I'm really excited for one of the Souls-likes on this list that's coming up. So it just drops this game down a little bit. If this was the only Souls-like announced, then maybe it would be higher. It comes in at number 21 on my list. This next category is the category I deem intriguing. These games all look interesting to me, but I just need a little bit more from them to move them up or down on this list. I don't really know where they're going to end up long term, but there's a lot of things that make me potentially interested in these games, but they also could be games that I would totally not enjoy, depending on gameplay or story footage that comes out later. So coming in at number 20 is The Sea of Remnants, and the trailer for this game was just a banger song. Like, I just had so much fun listening to this song that I was like, okay, I'm gonna put it intriguing. I want to see more. I want to see what this gameplay is about. I think it's going to be a turn-based game, which again, I'm not a huge fan of turn-based gameplay, so this game is probably my least favorite of the ones on this list, but it comes in at number 20 on this list. At number 19, we have Blood Message, and this is like a samurai type game where you have this lone guy who is exploring his duty to his country, and there appears to be some father-son or father-daughter type relationship in this game, which is always interesting to me when they have these stories about a father and daughter and how they can care for one another while the dad's off at war and he has to be apart from his daughter. Like, that is a little interesting to me, but what concerns me about this game is it's just going to be like a hack and slash game where the main character just fights hundreds of enemies at once, and that's what the trailer seemed to make it like. And I don't really enjoy fighting that many enemies at once. Maybe 4 or 5 is like a limit, but generally I like more grounded encounters that it's more reasonable for a character to take on 5 enemies at once than hundreds, and I just like more developed combat. And when you are fighting a lot of enemies at once, generally the combat doesn't feel as satisfying because it takes less strength to take out one individual enemy. So for that reason, I'm intrigued by it, but it comes in at number 19 on my list. At number 18, I have Crossfire, and this is the latest game made by devs from Naughty Dog. They actually, I think, split off to make a different studio, but correct me if I'm wrong in the comments. The game looks a lot like The Last of Us, and that's what this gameplay reminds me of, and they're from Naughty Dog, so that makes sense. But I wasn't a huge fan of The Last of Us, but it does have an undeniably great story. So just because I didn't like the gameplay in The Last of Us, the story was really great. So these devs really know how to make a good story, and this game seems no different. Like, the trailer, the story intrigues me. Like, it sounds like this game will have a really good story, but I'm not sure how I will like the stealth mechanics and the gunplay of pistol shooting mostly and occasional rifle. Like, it doesn't seem like I would enjoy the gameplay style of this game that much, but the story could be phenomenal. So for that reason, it has me intrigued, and it comes in at number 18 on my list. At number 17, I'm sure this is one that you guys were all waiting for. Where is he going to put this game? It is the Among Us story mode on Guard, and I loved playing Among Us with my friends. It was great, but I feel like Among Us has overstayed its welcome a little bit, and they're trying to milk as much as they can out of it. They made a TV show about Among Us. They're updating Among Us with features that people didn't really want, and they kind of lost the essence of what made Among Us great in a desperate attempt to retain players. So I'm cautiously optimistic about this game. I think that it could be fun. A story mode Among Us could be fun, but also the graphics, like I did not like the graphical style for this game, that it changed from the traditional Among Us graphics. I think it just looks more cartoony and not great as far as what the gameplay showed us for graphical style, but it's Among Us. I like Among Us, so I am intrigued by this game, and it comes in at 17 on my list. At number 16 on my list, I have 1666 Amsterdam, which the concept of this game is what is most appealing to me. You are a witch who is hunting down the witch hunters who are trying to hunt down the rest of the witches. So you're trying to protect the witches who are not as well off as you are in magic or strength. What concerns me about this game is that you're a witch who has all these powers and you're hunting down like normal people like John Proctor. And it's like, well, how is the combat going to be engaging in this game if you're so powerful and these other people are not? It might have some stealth mechanics based on what I saw in the trailer. And again, stealth mechanics can be hit or miss for me. Sometimes I like them, sometimes I don't. This trailer sold me on the game. I think it would be a fun game to play, but I would like to see more to figure out exactly what I think of this game. So it comes in at number 16 on my list. At number 15, I have Mortal Shell 2, and I never played Mortal Shell 1, but this game is a Souls-like, and I love Souls-likes, so automatically this game gets bumped up on my list. The trailer just captured me more than Swords of Legends. Like, I just thought that this game had a better aesthetic than that game, so it got bumped up on my list. And I cheated a little bit for this game because it's already out. I looked at some of the reviews, and people are really liking this game. Like, everyone says it's an improvement on the first game by like a lot. So that makes me really tempted to try and check it out. The problem is it would probably just sit in my backlog of games forever because Souls-likes are hard and I would need a lot of time to complete it. So because of that, it's intriguing, but I don't know if I'm going to have time to play, and I still am not entirely sure how I feel about the game based on the trailer and the reviews, and it comes in at number 15 on my list. At number 14, I have The Blood of Dawnwalker, and in this game you're playing as a vampire that's trying to stop all the evil vampires, and it's kind of a neat concept to me that, like, you're a good guy vampire who's trying to show that vampires are not evil, but there's a battle between you have to consume blood and you're trying to protect the innocents, and that's always been an interesting story to me. It's been done a number of times before, so it's not the most unique thing, but I like the story arc and I like the look of the game. It has been compared to The Witcher 3 by a lot of people, and The Witcher 3 is my favorite game of all time, so if it can replicate that combat and the story and the fun that I had playing Witcher 3, I'll probably have a lot of fun playing this game. But it still needs a few more looks, and in September I'm excited to try it out when it comes out, if I have time to play it. So it comes in at number 14 on my list. At number 13, I have Gen Atlas, and I don't really know much about this game. Just seeing the trailer just sparked something in me where it's like, man, I think this game looks really good. You've got giant robots moving around like an abandoned desert wasteland, and I love mechs and giant robots, as you'll see in several of the other games that are coming up on this list, and I think I would have a fun time with this game. There's not a whole lot that I know about Gen Atlas or what is going on with the desert and the robots, why humanity is gone, but I'm excited to learn about the world building of this game. So it comes in at number 13 on my list. We've reached the point in this video where all of the games coming up are games that I'm excited to play. This category I've deemed the fun category, and it's games that I think I'll have fun playing, but are not games that I would lose any sleep over if I wasn't able to play them. Coming in at number 12 is Extremely Hard. This is a co-op Fadian game. A Fadian game is like Getting Over It, or that's the namesake, is Getting Over It with Bennett Foddy. Essentially a game that's designed to be really hard, like platformer type game where you are trying to reach a goal by going forward, but you have the capability of going backwards by falling down the mountain and getting over it, or by falling down the platforms in games like Only Up. This game brings in a twist where you're two ducks and it's a co-op. And I think it would be a lot of fun to play with my girlfriend, but I think she would get a little too frustrated playing this game. So it's going to be lower on this list than the other co-op game that's coming up. I think I would really enjoy this game because I enjoy challenges, but I think Emily would get frustrated. So that's why it comes in at number 12 on my list. At number 11 on my list, I have the first of the two Star Wars games. You guys know I love Star Wars. You know they were going to be high up. One of the first videos on my channel was about Mandalorians, ranking the Mandalorians, so I love Star Wars, and this game is Star Wars Zero Company. I think I'll have fun playing this game. I'm not the biggest fan of turn-based strategy games. As I've already discussed many times in this review, turn-based games are not my favorite thing, but this has a Star Wars skin, so of course I'm going to play it, and we get to see Anakin Skywalker in action in a PC game. This is a turn-based Star Wars game that's not on mobile, it's not Galaxy of Heroes, so I'm excited for it. I think I'm going to have loads of fun playing it, and I always like to explore new Star Wars stories, and it looks like we're going to explore a new Star Wars story with a new group of people during the Clone Wars, so we get to see what these people are up to during the Clone Wars in a different group of people than Anakin and Obi-Wan. Of course, Anakin's in the game, but he's going to be recruited probably pretty late on, so you can spend some time with these characters, and I'm really excited for this game, even if it's not my favorite of the two Star Wars games announced, and you'll see that one coming up pretty soon. So this game comes in at number 11 on my list. At number 10, I have Orbitals, and this is the other co-op game on this list that seems significantly easier than Extremely Hard. So I think I would have a lot of fun playing this with my girlfriend, Emily. So that's why it's higher than Extremely Hard. But I also do know that this is a Nintendo Switch exclusive, so it's exclusive to the Switch 2. So if you don't have a Switch 2, then this might be lower for you. I personally do have a Switch 2, so I will be able to play this game, and I think it looks like a blast. I'm really excited to play this game. So it comes in at number 10 on my list. At number 9 on my list, I have Sand Raiders of Sophie, and this game looks like it requires friends, which kind of drops it down on this list a little bit, because as I've said many times, I don't have any friends. I'm kind of lacking in that component. So these games that are more than two-player co-op, where I can't just play with my girlfriend, is going to drop it down a little bit. But it does look really fun, like the gameplay loop where you build these massive oil rigs and you move around the desert with them, raiding other people's oil rigs. Like, just looks so fun. And you've got crafting, you got survival aspects, and I love survival games. They're some of my favorite genre of games. I just have a blast with them, so I probably would have a lot of fun with this game if I could convince 3 other people to play it with me. I'm excited for this game to come out, but it's one of those that I might miss because I don't have enough friends to play it, so it doesn't quite make the next tier of games. And it comes in at number 9 on my list. At number 8, I have Gundam Rogue Orbit, and this game just looks fun. You're in a mech suit, you're beating up people in a mech suit, you're fighting these giant monsters and giant technological terrors as someone in a mech suit, and it's just great. I've stated that I like mech suits, I like these types of games. I'm excited for this game, and I'll probably play it if I have the money and time to spare to play Gundam Rogue Orbit. It just looks like a blast. Now, again, Gundam is a Japanese franchise, so it could have some of those problems that I've mentioned with other games that are made by Japanese studios. Like, they tend to be predatory with monetization. They tend to design their characters in a way that I think is not my favorite design philosophy, and they tend to have turn-based games also, but this game didn't look turn-based, so I'm not really concerned about that. But there are some concerns that come from the game being of Japanese origin, so that drops down a little bit to number 8 on my list. This last category is what I'll call must-plays. For me, these are games that if I don't play, I'm going to lose sleep over. I think that they are really exciting and that they're going to be really fun. So I am super excited to play these games. At number 7, I have a game that has no gameplay yet and is really just an announcement trailer. And I'm riding purely based off the hype of this story and of the franchise. It is Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles: The Last Ronin. I love Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and this game is a must play because of that for me. Like, I would not miss this game. As soon as it comes out, I'm buying it. I'm really excited. I have no idea what the gameplay is going to be like, but I can imagine like an action RPG where you're playing as Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle, the last one alive, trying to get vengeance for your brothers that are dead, and it just sounds like it'll be a really fun time. And it would be even better if it's a Souls-like. Based on the studios making it, I doubt they would make it a Souls-like, but I would have so much fun playing it if it was a Souls-like as a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle. Like, that would be super cool. So for that reason, this comes in at number 7 on my list. At number 6, I have Soulframe, and this game is made by DE, the same studio that made Warframe, and it's essentially Warframe in a fantasy world, and I think that is gonna be so fun. When I was a teenager, I put hundreds of hours into Warframe, grinding away, and I just love the game. Like, even with all the grind, like, I love the game, I love the gameplay, modifying, switching your characters, doing raids, and this game appears to be very similar. It appears to be more single player oriented, so you can do a lot more things by yourself, which is something that I appreciate because, again, I don't have friends, so I would have to pair up with strangers to do raids, and that's always a pain. But I loved Warframe, so I'm probably going to love this game. One thing I hope that they do is that they make this game less grindy than Warframe. I tried constantly to get my friends to play Warframe, and it was just like, man, I don't want to grind 30 hours to catch up to you. Like, Warframe was definitely had an issue with grinding, so I hope that this game is less grindy and that I can have a lot of fun. But I am concerned about the grind that the devs might put in, so that's why it only comes in at number 6 on this list. Before we get into my top 5 on this list, consider giving me a like and subscribe on this video. It helps my channel out a lot, and as a small YouTuber who's looking to grow, I've got a lot of different videos coming up that I think you're going to really enjoy. I make rankings and reviews of all things movies and video games, so if you like nerd culture in general, please feel free to give me a subscribe. Let's move on to my top 5 most anticipated games based on the Summer Games Fest. At number 5, I have Mighty Cuphead Adventure, and this is like a Mario version of Cuphead, or a Cuphead version of Mario rather, and it just looks like a fun time. If this was a true Cuphead sequel, the side-scrolling and all, like, I would really enjoy it, and I'd probably put it at 2, maybe 1 on this list, because I really, really liked Cuphead. But this is a nice interim to hold us Cuphead fans over while they develop Cuphead 2. But this game still looks fun. Like, I love Mario, I love Cuphead, so combining the two looks like it'll be a great time. I'm super excited to play Mighty Cuphead Adventure. So for me, it comes in at number 5 on my list. One thing about me is that I love MMOs, but it is really hard to get into an MMO if you haven't been playing it for years. So at number 4 comes Guild Wars 3, and for me this is really exciting because they're launching a brand new MMO in a world that I already enjoy. I love playing Guild Wars 2. but I'm gonna get a fresh start, and everyone else is gonna get a fresh start at the same time. So you're gonna have that built-in community to help you build an MMO. One of my concerns about MMOs is, of course, how much time they take up. Like, all the multiplayer activities take up so much time. These raids, you have to dedicate a lot of your life to an MMO to be really good at it. So that's why Guild Wars comes in a little lower on this list, but I'm really excited. The graphics look really great. I'm super, updating graphics to modern times looks absolutely amazing. Also, if they are truly updating to this style, will they go to a WASD play instead of point and click? I'm really excited to see if they do that, because I love the WASD gameplay. One of the things that deters me from MMOs usually is the top-down point and click style that's super common with them, like RuneScape and WoW, and even Guild Wars 2. I never really got super far in Guild Wars 2, even though I enjoyed it a lot. I also hope that the combat gets revamped, because I think MMO combat, with the exception of a few MMOs, is generally not the greatest. Just pressing 1, 2, 3, 4 or all your mouse buttons on the side here to just spam cast spells. I generally think that's not the greatest, so hopefully they find an interesting way to incorporate combat into the world of 3D if they don't go with the top-down approach. So I'm really excited to see what Guild Wars 3 has in store, and what I've seen already looks great, but if I see gameplay in the future, it can move this spot up or down on the list by a few spots for sure. But I'm super excited for this game, so it comes in at number 4 on my list. At number 3 on my list is Star Wars Galactic Racers, and you guys knew this was coming. I love Star Wars, as I said before. This Star Wars game is definitely the one I'm more excited for of the two. I've always wanted a pod racing game ever since I played the pod racing level in LEGO Star Wars The Complete Saga. This game looks super fun, and it actually has a story, which I'm excited for, because I am not going to have fun racing other people. I don't think I'm just going to get absolutely destroyed because I'm no good at racing games, and that's usually why I don't like racing games. But this racing game having a Star Wars skin makes it acceptable for me, even though I've said I don't like racing games in this video. And the story looks good, the trailer about you helping people in the galaxy by pod racing and trying to beat out Sebulba, all of that looks interesting. I'm interested to see what the story actually pans out to be and how long it'll be, because the length of the story and the amount of playtime that I get out of the story compared to the multiplayer will heavily influence my opinion on this game. I really want to have a good amount of playtime and fun in this game as a single player racer, as a person who will probably only really play single player. I don't want the devs to just cater to the multiplayer audience and focus on racing online, and that would bring this game down for me. So that's really why it's at number 3 on this list, because games above it, I'm 100% sure that they are going to be done well by the devs, and I have faith in them to be really great. At number 2, I have Lords of the Fallen 2, and I love Souls-likes, as I've said multiple times on this list, and Lords of the Fallen is a great Souls-like. It's one of my favorite Souls-likes that is not made by FromSoft, so I am really excited for Lords of the Fallen 2. I think the studio will knock it out of the park, and everything I saw in this trailer looked so fun. It looked like it was already going to be better than the first game, and that they had improvements based on the feedback from the players, which I really enjoyed. I didn't really have any issues with Lords of the Fallen 1. I played it probably a couple years after release, maybe 1.5 years after release, so I didn't experience the bugginess that the players experienced in that game on day one. I also didn't experience any of the combat mechanics that they had changed from day one because players were complaining, so they had already done a pretty good job at taking people's feedback around Lords of the Fallen 1, but I really enjoyed it. I love the essence of these universes colliding and the whole story behind Lords of the Fallen. I'm really excited for Lords of the Fallen 2, so it comes in at number 2 on this list. But there is one thing left on this list, and of course it happens to be a remake, which I was surprised about. I'm usually not super excited about remakes, but this is remaking one of my favorite games that I played as a kid. It of course is Assassin's Creed Black Flag Resync. They're updating everything, the graphics, the combat, the ships, and I loved Assassin's Creed Black Flag. And I've had complaints about stealth mechanics throughout this video, but I think the Assassin's Creed games have done stealth really well. So there are a lot of games that I'm not a huge fan of stealth mechanics, but it really works in Assassin's Creed. And of course, I played Black Flag as a kid. It has some of the best ship combat to this day of any game, and I really like the way that the ships are designed and that you're a pirate out in the sea, and you still have land missions where you go and assassinate people. And I really hope they do the original game justice, but the original game is really carrying this game on this list. Like, my faith in them adapting the original game to a new level, I have a lot of faith in them to do this well. And there are a couple concerns that I have, right? It's Ubisoft. They have monetized their games pretty heavily and maybe lock things behind a paywall in games that they shouldn't have, like the later Assassin's Creed games. And they've definitely made a lot of changes that people have been unhappy about in the franchise. I personally really like the open world Assassin's Creed games like Origins and Odyssey. I had a lot of fun playing those. I didn't end up playing Valhalla or Shadows, but I really enjoyed the two that I did play, Origins and Odyssey, so I don't really have the same issue that with them changing the franchise that other people did. But this hopefully is a return to form anyway, so it should be a fun game for everyone who enjoyed the original style of Assassin's Creed. If you're someone who only enjoys the open world, then maybe this will be a good entry point into seeing what Assassin's Creed used to be like. So I'm really excited for Assassin's Creed Black Flag Resync, the most excited, which is why it lands at number 1 on this list. If you enjoyed this video, consider giving me a like and subscribe. Comment down below what your ranking of the 43 new trailers at Games Fest is, and if you didn't watch all of the trailers for the new games announced, let me know what game you're most excited for or rank your top 10. I'll comment and respond to each ranking on my thoughts on your ranking, so you get to see where we disagree and what I would have changed in your ranking. Remember, keep consuming media so I can keep covering it.